I want you to just imagine a scenario for a second here.
Okay, I'm listening.
So imagine you spent like the last 20 years building this really thriving, robust business. You've navigated all the economic downturns, you employ dozens of people in your community, and you're finally generating like real, tangible wealth.
Right, you've made it. You feel secure.
Exactly. You
Yeah.
feel totally secure. And then literally a single event just dismantles it all. And I'm not talking about a market crash.
Oh, wow. What then?
I'm talking about like a delivery driver in one of your company vehicles causing a severe multi-car accident.
Hmm.
Or maybe it's a massive dispute with a really critical supplier that just spirals into this catastrophic lawsuit.
Right, the unpredictable stuff.
Yeah. And the judgment comes down and the damages just far, far exceed whatever commercial insurance coverage you have.
It's a terrifying reality to confront
Yeah.
because in that moment, the business doesn't just fold. The liability, it aggressively spills over.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, if you haven't engineered a structural barrier between the company and yourself, those creditors, they come looking for the ultimate shareholders,
Which is you.
which is you.
Yeah.
They come for your personal savings. They come for the family home. We tend to view success as this, permanent solid structure, but without the correct legal architecture underneath it, that success is just breathtakingly fragile.
It really is. And, well, that's exactly why we're here. Welcome to our deep dive.
Yeah.
Today, our mission is to explore this uniquely powerful, but I think frequently misunderstood financial tool in South Africa, which is the trust.
It's such an important topic.
Right. We're pulling from an incredibly rich stack of research today. We're looking at advanced asset protection strategies, broad-based Black economic empowerment, so BE structures. And specifically, we're diving into the methodologies of Lunke Sturman, who is a highly specialized South African trust consultant.
Yeah, and the overarching goal we're unpacking today is how to build what the literature actually calls an asset protection fortress.
I love that term, fortress.
It's great, right. But the real focus here, like the reason this is so crucial for anyone operating a business in South Africa, is that this fortress delivers what we call a dual benefit.
Right. It's doing two things at once.
Exactly. It can robustly protect your personal wealth from the kind of liabilities we just mentioned, while at the very same time acting as this growth-driving engine for BE compliance.
Okay, so before we get into how that dual benefit actually works in practice, I think we need to understand the fundamental vulnerability that most founders just live with every single day.
Oh, totally. The blind spot.
Yeah, the blind spot. Because a lot of entrepreneurs, they unknowingly treat their business as a direct extension of themselves, right? They mix their personal and business liabilities simply by holding like 100% of their company shares in their own personal capacity.
Which brings us directly to the case study of Mrs. Mokoena from the research.
Yes, that one was heartbreaking.
It really is. So she spent 15 years building this highly successful logistics business, literally from scratch. But she owned all the shares personally. So when a devastating accident involving one of her fleet vehicles resulted in a 12 million rand judgment against her company.
Her insurance didn't cover it, right?
No, her commercial insurance fell millions of rands short.
Oh, man. And because her personal estate was inextricably linked to the value of those shares, the corporate veil offered like zero protection for her actual ultimate wealth.
Exactly. The creditors just looked right past the company directly to her personal assets.
Which is terrifying. I mean, she was forced into a corner where she had to liquidate significant personal holdings. She lost her primary residence.
Yeah.
And she had to sell her company's shares to a competitor at this heavily distressed price just to settle the claim. I mean, she did the hardest part. She built a thriving enterprise, but she completely missed the structural protection.
And that is exactly where Limke Sturman's core philosophy becomes so essential. Her methodology really hinges on a very specific distinction. She says, your business protects your income, but a trust protects your wealth.
Your business protects your income.
Yeah.
A trust protects your wealth. That's really powerful.
Right. The mechanics of this fortress, they rely on absolute separation. So the trust owns the assets or the shares. The operating company carries all the daily commercial risk, and you, as the founder, you manage the structure without actually taking on the personal direct exposure.
Reading through the nuts and bolts of this, it honestly makes me think of naval architecture.
Oh, really? How so?
Yeah, like if you build a massive cargo ship, right, and it just have one giant open hull, if it hits a reef and takes on water, the entire vessel sinks.
There's nothing to stop the water.
Exactly. And in Mrs. Mokena's case, her business and her personal wealth were essentially sitting in that same single hull.
Right.
But if you build the ship with watertight compartments, separate bulkheads, then if the business compartment gets punctured and floods, the personal wealth compartment stays completely dry. The ship actually survives.
That's a perfect analogy. And the watertight door in that analogy, that's the independent governance of the trust.
Okay, tell me more about that.
So when you place assets, whether that's your company shares or like your family home, into a properly structured trust, you are legally divorcing your personal estate from those assets.
So they aren't legally yours anymore.
Exactly. They no longer belong to you, they belong to the trust. So when a creditor comes knocking with a business liability, they literally cannot attach those assets because you technically don't own them.
Wow. And the sources detail how that defensive shield, it extends way beyond just business creditors, too.
Mm.
Like a trust protects wealth during a messy divorce or against claims from estranged family members.
Oh, absolutely.
It's also this massive safeguard for professionals like surgeons or engineers who carry really high personal malpractice risks.
And, it also elegantly solves one of the biggest wealth destroyers out there, which is estate duties.
Oh, right. The tax trap.
The tax trap. Because when you pass away, if your wealth is just sitting in your personal name, your estate gets frozen.
Yeah, and that's a nightmare for the family.
Complete nightmare. Your family has to deal with executors, massive administrative delays, and a hefty estate duty tax that can wipe out like 20 to 25% of the value just instantly.
Wow.
But a trust doesn't die. So the assets continue to be managed for the beneficiaries without triggering those massive liquidity traps or transfer taxes upon your death.
Okay, so we've firmly established how to build this incredibly robust armor to protect your family. But what if that exact same armor could be weaponized to actively win market share?
And that is where the South African context makes this strategy entirely unique.
Exactly. It's the amazing pivot from defense to offense.
Yeah.
Because in South Africa, the defensive mechanics of an asset protection trust, they perfectly intersect with the imperatives of broad-based Black economic empowerment.
Right, BE. And for any business wanting to secure government tenders or even just integrate into the supply chains of large corporate clients, BE compliance is absolutely not a nice to have. It is a fundamental requirement for revenue growth.
Yeah, the sources break down the generic BE scorecard, and they note that ownership can actually contribute up to 25 points.
Mm-hmm.
But what does that actually mean in practice? Like, why do those 25 points matter so much to the bottom line?
It really comes down to preferential procurement.
Okay.
When a government department or, a large corporation is evaluating bids for a contract, they don't just look at the price tag, they calculate your BE recognition level.
Right, because it impacts them.
Exactly. If your business is level 2, your clients can claim 125% of what they spend with you toward their own BEE targets.
Right.
But if you are level 6, they can only claim 60%. So if you and a competitor offer the exact same service at the exact same price, the company with the better BE structure wins the contract, purely because it helps the client's own scorecard.
Which totally explains why so many founders rush to set up these ownership structures.
But the research is also very clear on this. You cannot fake this.
No, you really can't. The verification agencies, they aren't just checking boxes anymore. They are actively hunting for actual economic substance.
And we see this so starkly in the case study of Mr. Delamany.
Oh, right, the construction company.
Yeah, so he ran this construction company, and he tried to claim level 2 BE status. He set up a trust that supposedly held 30% of the company's shares for his Black employees.
Which, on paper, looks fine.
Right. On paper, it looked perfect. But then the verification agency actually audited the structure.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. You can just imagine this auditor walking onto the construction site, pulling a foreman aside and asking, so how does it feel to own a piece of this company?
And the foreman's probably like, what are you talking about?
Exactly. The foreman looks at them completely blankly because he has absolutely no idea he's a beneficiary. Mr. Delamany was literally making every single decision unilaterally.
Wow.
The trust had never even held a meeting. And crucially, the employees had never received a single cent in dividends.
So it's just a classic sham structure.
A total paper castle. The verification agency stripped the points away immediately. His company was downgraded to level 6, which directly resulted in the loss of 15 million rand in annual government contracts.
15 million rand, just
Yeah.
gone. Because he built a structure, but he didn't put any real empowerment substance inside it.
Exactly.
Now, contrast that complete failure with the Govender family from the research. They took a totally different approach.
They did it right.
They really did.
Mm.
They designed a single integrated trust that held 51% of their manufacturing business. And the beneficiaries included both family members and their Black employees.
Mm.
So through this trust, they achieved genuine Black-owned enterprise status, which locked in their supply chain contracts while simultaneously placing the majority of their wealth safely outside their personal, vulnerable estates.
It's the perfect dual benefit.
But hold on a second. I need to push back on this a little bit because it feels kind of contradictory.
Okay, how so?
Well, asset protection is fundamentally about locking the safe, right? Putting up walls to safeguard your family's wealth from outsiders.
Right.
But BE compliance is about opening the doors, proving to verification agencies and your employees that they have a genuine, active stake in the business. How do these two completely opposite goals not just clash and become this massive administrative nightmare?
That is a totally valid skepticism. I mean, it sounds like oil and water, but the secret actually lies in the legal mechanics of it all.
Okay, break that down for me.
Both a legitimate asset protection trust and a genuine BE trust require the exact same core element, which is a true transfer of ownership. You cannot just pretend to transfer the assets while secretly keeping the keys in your own pocket.
So the administrative burden is actually the very thing that validates both of those goals.
Precisely. The exact same discipline. Having independent trustees, holding documented meetings, passing formal resolutions, that proves to a high court judge that your trust isn't just a personal piggy bank.
Yeah.
That is the exact same discipline that proves to a BE verification agency that your empowerment structure is genuine.
That makes so much sense.
And furthermore, for Black-owned family businesses, the beneficiaries overlap naturally anyway. Your Black family members or employees are the beneficiaries, so the wealth transfer and the empowerment transfer are literally one and the same.
Okay, the discipline serves both masters. I like that. But let's look at what happens when founders try to cheat that discipline. Like we were talking about earlier, the legal world calls these paper castles.
Yes, structures that look formidable on paper but just completely collapse the moment they are tested by a court or an auditor.
And the sources highlight two massive legal threats that tear these paper castles down, which are the alter ego doctrine and fronting.
The alter ego doctrine is fascinating.
It really is. Let's look at the cautionary tale of Mr. Pillay.
Oh, this one is a classic.
Right. So he transferred his 18 million rand business into a trust specifically to protect it from a looming divorce.
Huh.
But his day-to-day behavior didn't change at all.
Not even a little bit.
He didn't consult the trustees. He paid for his personal vacations, his daily groceries, literally right out of the trust bank account.
Just treating it like a personal checking account.
Exactly. So when the divorce proceedings hit, his spouse's attorneys simply subpoenaed the bank statements and the meeting minutes. Or, well, the lack thereof.
Right, because there were no meetings.
Zero. And they argued that this wasn't a separate legal entity managing assets for beneficiaries. It was literally just Mr. Pillay's personal wallet with a different name on it.
Yeah.
It was his alter ego.
And the court absolutely agreed with that. They pierced the veil of the trust, completely disregarded the structure, and split the 18 million rand in assets as part of the divorce settlement anyway.
Wow.
His paper castle just collapsed because he wanted the benefits of a trust without actually respecting any of the rules of a trust.
And then the other side of that coin is in the BE space, which is fronting. This is essentially window dressing your structures to look compliant without actually empowering anyone. And the penalties for fronting, they aren't just losing points on a scorecard.
No, it's severe.
We are talking about criminal prosecution, immediate cancellation of your government contracts, and just absolute reputational destruction in the market.
It's just not worth the risk.
But, okay, let's get real for a second. If I am the founder, right, and I've poured my blood, sweat, and tears into building a 180 million rand company from nothing, you're telling me I have to let an outside trustee and like my warehouse workers vote on my business decisions? I mean, most founders I know would honestly rather take their chances with a lawsuit than completely give up the steering wheel. Do I really have to surrender control of my own company?
That is genuinely the #1 fear founders have when looking at this structure. But it really stems from a misunderstanding of how a trust operates in relation to a company.
Okay, clarify that for me.
You are not giving up operational control of the business. The trust holds the shares of the company. It doesn't hold the CEO position.
Right. So the board of directors still actually runs the day-to-day operations.
Exactly. You can still be the managing director making the daily strategic decisions. What the trust requires is that when it comes to shareholder matters,
Like big picture stuff.
yeah, like
Yeah.
declaring dividends or selling the company entirely, those decisions have to be deliberated by the trustees, which must include an independent party. It's really about balance. You don't walk away, but there must be genuine independent oversight, and there must be real economic distributions flowing down to the beneficiaries.
Which brings up a critical concept from the research, the flow-through principle.
Yes. Verification agencies will literally flow through the trust structure. They don't just stop at the trust deed, they look through the trust to identify the actual natural persons at the very end of the line.
So they follow the money.
Exactly. If the answer is qualifying Black individuals who hold genuine voting rights through elected representatives and who actually receive real economic value, you get the points.
Right.
But if the flow-through reveals that only the founder is ultimately benefiting, the structure fails the test.
Well, while we're on the subject of moving assets and flowing through economic value, we absolutely have to talk about the tax reality.
Mm.
Because setting up a trust is definitely not some magical tax-free loophole.
Oh, not even close. In South Africa, trusts are taxed quite heavily. They face a flat tax rate of 45% on retained income.
Wow, 45%.
Yeah. And an effective capital gains tax rate of 36%.
But the real landmine mentioned in the source is the one that catches people out, is Section 7C of the Income Tax Act.
Yes.
Let's explain why this rule actually exists, because it's interesting. Historically, a wealthy founder would essentially sell their business to a trust to get it out of their personal estate. But the trust obviously had no cash to actually buy it. So the founder would give the trust a zero-interest loan for the purchase price.
Right. It was this massive loophole to basically freeze the value of the estate and avoid estate duties indefinitely without paying any tax on the transfer itself.
So the Revenue Service understandably closed that loophole very aggressively with Section 7C.
They certainly did.
Now, if you fund a trust with a loan that carries a below-market interest rate, the tax authority views that missing interest as a deemed donation.
Yeah, and you, as the founder, you will be taxed on that deemed donation every single year.
Ouch. So you literally cannot just shuffle assets around on a spreadsheet. You have to plan exactly how the trust is funded, how shares are valued, and how loans are structured, or you're just going to trigger this massive recurring tax bill.
Which is precisely why trying to DIY an asset protection trust is incredibly dangerous. I mean, the complexity of balancing the Trust Property Control Act, the Income Tax Act, and the BE Codes of Good Practice, it requires highly specialized architecture.
Okay, so let's look at a masterclass in how to actually thread this needle successfully. The sources outline the Khumalo family case study, and honestly, it is just a brilliant blueprint of how all these moving parts come together.
The Khumalo case is exceptional. So, Mr. Khumalo had built this 180 million rand manufacturing business, but he was facing a perfect storm of threats.
Yeah.
He had a looming massive litigation suit with the supplier, intense pressure from a key government client to achieve 51% Black ownership, and he desperately needed a secure estate plan for his family.
So instead of just, throwing everything into one generic trust and hoping for the best,
Yeah.
they used a phased three-part structural solution.
Mm-hmm.
First, they established a family trust, which held 35% of the operating company. This was dedicated purely to wealth protection and estate planning for his immediate family.
Yeah.
Next, they set up an employee share ownership trust, or an ESOP, holding 20%.
And that ESOP is crucial because it isn't just some paper promise. The company actually funds the ESOP, perhaps through vendor financing or dividend flow, and the employees actually elect representatives to sit on the trust board.
Real empowerment.
Exactly. It provides broad-based empowerment.
Right. And finally, they created a next-generation trust, which was specifically ring-fenced just to fund the grandchildren's education.
When you step back and look at the outcomes of that three-part architecture, it is honestly staggering. By combining the family trust and the ESOP, they achieved 100% Black ownership for BE purposes, completely securing a level 2 status.
Which is huge.
Massive. That directly resulted in retaining and winning 25 million rand in new contracts annually.
Plus, because 55% of the business's total value is now legally housed inside these trust structures, they achieved massive estate duty savings for when Mr. Khumalo eventually passes. And that looming supplier lawsuit. The family's wealth was safely locked behind the watertight bulkheads we talked about earlier. The creditors literally couldn't touch the value held in the trusts.
But arriving at a customized solution like the Khumalos requires expert guidance. You cannot just download a template off the internet and expect it to withstand a forensic audit by a verification agency or, a hostile cross-examination in the high court.
Which is exactly why the source material highlights Lunka Sturman so prominently. Her approach to this is basically considered the gold standard.
Absolutely.
A true trust consultant doesn't just hand you a stack of dense legal documents and wish you luck. Lunka's methodology actually starts with what she calls a foundation audit, or an asset protection blueprint.
And that audit is the vital first step. She maps out your specific personal risks versus your business risks. She assesses whether your current operations are even ready for a trust and carefully plans the actual flow of assets and funding to avoid traps like Section 7C.
It's literal structural engineering for your financial life.
That's a great way to put it.
If you are out there right now generating income, employing people, and building real assets, you need this level of protection. You need an architect for your fortress.
For sure.
And this isn't about being sold a product, right? It's about finding an essential partner to map out your financial survival and growth. If you want to understand how this applies to your specific situation, honestly, checking out her frameworks at www.lumkesturman.com is a really solid first step.
Highly recommend it.
Yeah, you can join her asset protection waitlist, you can book a consultation, or just grab a copy of her book.
Yeah.
Because, as the sources wisely state, the best time to implement dual benefit planning was 5 years ago. The second best time is right now.
It is the absolute truth. I mean, the risks, the accidents, the lawsuits, the lost contracts, they do not wait for you to finally get your paperwork in order.
No, they definitely don't. So let's just recap this journey briefly. We started by looking at the really severe vulnerability of leaving your personal wealth completely exposed to commercial risks. And then we explored how, uniquely in the South African context, you can achieve this dual benefit, using the exact same trust structure to secure genuine, growth-driving BEE credentials, while simultaneously building an impenetrable legal shield around your family's asset.
Yeah. But we also learned that the shield only holds if it possesses genuine legal and economic substance. Paper castles will fall.
They always do.
You have to respect the rigorous rules of independent governance, tax law, and true empowerment through that flow-through principle.
Which is exactly why you need an expert guide to help you build the architecture correctly from day one. And again, you can explore the blueprints and connect with Lumka at www.lumcasterman.com.
Before we wrap up today, I want to leave you with one final, broader perspective to just kind of mull over.
Oh, all right. Let's hear it.
We have spent this entire time discussing how a perfectly structured trust protects your wealth from outside threats, right? From creditors, from lawsuits, from business failures. But it performs a function that is arguably even more powerful on the inside.
What do you mean by on the inside?
Well, a well-run trust essentially acts as a formalized financial constitution for your family. By legally forcing regular meetings, by requiring documented financial decisions, and by adhering to strict, clear distribution rules, a trust actively shapes the financial literacy and the behavior of the next generation.
Wow, I never thought of it like that.
Yeah. It prevents the sudden, irresponsible squandering of wealth. In many ways, the greatest value of an asset protection trust isn't just protecting your family's wealth from the outside world, it is protecting your family's wealth from itself.
A financial constitution. That completely changes how you look at the administrative side of things. It's not a burden, it's training. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep building, but make sure you have the right architecture to protect what you build.